Redditors who worked in retail, what are your, you can't make this up stories? 1. At Target, we have a code yellow for missing kids. The whole team drops what they're doing and helps search. Usually, the child is found within minutes. One night, during a slow shift, a 10-year-old boy couldn't be found. The parent was frantic and getting more upset by the minute. I asked, would he have gone to the car on his own? This got me screamed at about how he would never do that and that I wasn't taking things seriously because he's been taken. Turns out, he had gone out to the car on his own. 2. I was working retail at a Sam Goody record store years ago and training a young girl at the cash register. She was quiet, shy, and very nervous. It was her first job. An older gentleman came up to the counter with a cassette tape he was really excited about. He'd apparently been searching for it for a long time and had finally found it. In his excitement, as he spoke, his dentures popped out of his mouth, bounced across the counter, and hit the trainee in the waist. She let out a screech, threw her hands in the air, and jumped backward about 5 feet. The man yelled, "Off it!" grabbed his dentures, and popped them right back in. The whole event lasted about 3 seconds. It was hilarious, but the poor girl was just shaking like a leaf, in complete disbelief about what had just happened to her. 3. The most memorable experience I had was coming back from break. I'd take the long way through the clothing areas to avoid customers. I went around a corner and bumped into a woman in the shoe while carrying an armful of boxes. I helped her pick up the one she dropped and then went back to the service counter. About 3 minutes later, the same woman walked up, put the boxes on the counter, and said she'd like to return them. I stopped and stared at her, saying, "I just saw you bring those directly from the floor to here." She insisted she wanted to return them. I didn't get paid enough to argue, so I called the manager, processed the return, about $200 on a gift card, and off she went. The manager and loss prevention stopped her before she made it out the door. 4. My first job was at an antique store. Mostly, I just came in after school to dust, vacuum, and help with heavy lifting. If the owner had an errand, I was fully in charge. One afternoon, a woman came in to shop. She brought her notebook and borrowed my measuring tape when she found a dining room table she liked. She said, "I'd like to order this table, but 4 inches longer." I replied, "Ma'am, we don't source our European antiques from a workshop. I can refer you to someone who could build a reasonable facsimile to your specifications, but there's no way to order what you want." She threw an absolute fit and called my boss the next day. My boss, who didn't need the money and only opened the shop to avoid being at home with her retired husband, didn't suffer fools. I don't know exactly what she told the woman, but when I got to work that afternoon, my boss slipped a $20 into my hand, like a grandmother, and said, "Baby, you earned this for putting up with that old lady." And $20 was real money back in 1985. 5. At Best Buy, a lady came in with a 10% off coupon and asked me how much it would take off an $80 antenna. I explained it would be $8. She seemed surprised and angrily picked the $50 one instead. While ringing her up, she asked why the antenna was $45. When I explained how 10% off worked again, she said, "I thought you said $8. 6. I accidentally locked a pregnant woman in the store while taking my break. I was working